Welcome to Next Level Nerd Riot. I'm Corey, your average nerd just trying to level up. And if you're an average nerd like me, this might have flown under your radar, but Sony basically dominates anime right now. If you didn't know, Sony bought the anime streaming service Crunchyroll, so basically if you watch anime from that service, Sony owns it. If you watch anime from the Funimation streaming service, Sony owns it. And if you watch your favorite anime or a lot of the mainstream animes from the early 2000s with the Aniplex logo pop up before the opening credits, Sony owns that company too, and had their hands in those anime productions. So with everything Sony is a part of in the anime industry, what's going to happen to Crunchyroll if that's your main source of anime content? That's what we're going to get into today. First thing to note is that in a press release just after buying Crunchyroll, the CEO of Sony Pictures Entertainment said, "Our goal is to create a unified anime subscription experience as soon as possible." So what platform would that be on, and what might that look like, you might ask? Well, to take a few steps back, first, Sony bought the anime streaming service Funimation in 2017 for a drop in the bucket. I'll mention the prices later, but they've already been working on that for a few years, and it's basically Sony's streaming service baby, or maybe cash cow, however you want to look at it. The Crunchyroll streaming service will be rebranded and transitioned into Funimation, but not as soon as the CEO's statement suggested, it seems. Instead of jumping full force into the Funimation Crunchyroll merger, Sony's taking smaller steps to work out the kinks of a transition of that scale. Sony's doing that by buying and merging Anime Lab into Funimation first. Anime Lab, what's that? Anime Lab's a streaming service in the Australia and New Zealand market that Sony completed its purchase in 2019 and has merged all those customers into the Funimation service, user logins and billings, all of that stuff, and then retiring the Anime Lab streaming service. Crunchyroll, on the other hand, is still rolling out new features, improving user experience, and making the site more sleek, kinda similar to the Funimation site. So both Funimation and Crunchyroll teams are probably working together in some capacity, making subtle changes to get the Crunchyroll subscribers used to the upcoming changes for getting absorbed into Funimation. So it doesn't appear to be an instant switch from one company to another. Crunchyroll isn't going away tomorrow, but at some point, Funimation will be the dominant streaming service absorbing Crunchyroll and their customers. So with that said, we're going to tackle some of the questions Crunchyroll subscribers might have. But first, who do you think Sony bought Crunchyroll from? AT&T. I never would have guessed that. I mean, Sony makes sense because they're in the gaming and the anime market, but AT&T was not on my radar, was not on my target. But moving back to the questions. Will my subscription price be going up? The current price of both services are relatively similar, give or take a few bucks, so I wouldn't expect too much of a change from what you're paying now. And if you think Funimation is just going to raise prices like crazy just because their service will have so much anime, that's likely not going to be the case. They'll still be competing against Netflix and Hulu, who also have a big anime library. So expect them to stay competitive with those companies' subscription prices, but Netflix is raising prices during the recording of this video, so take that with a grain of salt. Moving on. Will I have to create a new account? It most likely would just be like the Anime Lab merger to Funimation. They'd have gotten all the account swaps down by now, so you'd still use your same login info and your username from your Crunchyroll account. You'd start to get billed by Funimation instead of Crunchyroll. All in all, it should be a seamless transition on your part. And lastly, will I be losing features in the Switch? For the most part, features on both services are pretty comparable. If anything, you'll be gaining a lot more anime and a lot more dubbed versions of shows from the merger. So, maybe you can finally get your friend who's not wanting to read subtitles into anime. Plus, Funimation is most likely adding the Crunchyroll manga library to its services also. So really, you'd be benefiting from a bigger archive of anime and manga to dive into, which seems like a win-win for all of us nerdy subscribers. So I'll leave you with this little fun fact. Sony bought Funimation for this much, and then Sony bought Crunchyroll for this much. Yeah, that's a lot of money, and I would not expect that. But be on the lookout for my next video, and then comment down below what's the next anime you're going to start watching is.